everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sterling and I'm the artist here behind Cactus Lady Creation, and in one of my most recent videos I shared 50 different granny square patterns that you can make and had a few requests on what to do with those granny squares. So in this video I'll be sharing 50 granny square projects that you can make with those granny squares. I know I have quite a few granny squares myself piling up, and I'm wondering what to do with them. So if you're like me, you've definitely landed on the right video. And so make sure that you give this video a like and subscribe to this channel if you want more crochet tutorials and videos like this one. And all of these projects that I'll be sharing with you all have granny square patterns included with them. But if you have your own granny square that you'd like to create with them, you can also use that too. Just be mindful of the gauge and the size of the granny square that they've created versus the size that you have when doing the pattern. And I'll be separating all of these patterns into 3 different categories: clothing, accessories, and home decor. So make sure to check out those timestamps below to review any of these patterns that I mentioned. So to get us started here, I'll be sharing some clothing crochet projects to make with all of those granny squares. The first project that is great to make is a basic granny square sweater. And I really like this one by Craft. Several different methods and ways to connect the granny squares are explored in her blog, so you should definitely check that out. And I find that all of these sweaters are generally created by sewing them together in one panel, making the shape of a lowercase t, and then leaving a gap for the neckline and sewing them together along the sides to create a seam to connect it all together. Secondly, you could create a basic cardigan. Here's one by Originally Lovely, and this one is connected as well into the shape of a lowercase t, but when connecting it all together, you leave a gap along the neckline as well as along the front of the garment so that you can have that nice cardigan look. And this pattern is really convenient because it includes sizing for extra small up to 4XL. You could also make the cozy crochet jacket like this Glam Granny Coatigan by Yarnspirations. This one has sizing for small to 3XL. So that's really helpful. And this one's constructed in generally the same way as the cardigan. It's just made a little bit longer. And I also like the details included on how to make the hood, as well as the button and buttonhole band. It could also be nice to give an extra flair to a staple wardrobe piece by making a crochet shirt. This is a little variation on the granny square top called the Maria Top by Originally Lovely. And this one's just essentially one large granny square worked from top down in a raglan style. I love that this one has that granny square motif but has a little spin on it, and it also has sizing from small to 4XL. This next one is a personal favorite of mine. It's a granny square dress, and here's a pattern by Olivia Tooley 28. This one's more of a video how-to guide, and I really like the coloring she used. It kind of reminds me of an evil eye motif, and I really like her construction here. It's nice and simple and beginner friendly, or even if it's your first project, this would be a nice one to do. I also personally love making granny square mini skirts, and here's a nice design by MJ's Off the Hook Designs. This pattern includes sizing for extra small to 5XL. And this one includes instructions on how to make the skirt longer if that's something that you like. And it's really easy to make. You just make all the squares, connecting them into a tube, and then create that nice crochet waistband. I really loved making this next one. It's a granny square maxi skirt, and here's a design that I made a few videos back as a part of the How to Crochet a Skirt Guide series, and I have all of the steps on my blog. The sizing with this one is a bit more freehand, but I do give some steps on how to customize it to fit your body. Next is a tank top with the lovely granny square motif along the straps as well. And here's a great design by Lola Perez, and she made this piece for a size small. But you can easily adjust the sizing to fit you by adding some extra rows of single crochet along the borders of each square, or by just simply adding some more squares to your piece. If you're really feeling adventurous, you can make this next one. It's granny square overalls, and this overalls dress design is by The Dream Crochet, and they include some nice details on how to construct this all together, along with that granny motif on the back panel and the razor back style straps. This next one is really trendy right now. It's a granny square sweater vest, and this pattern is by Bethany Lynn Makes. And it's really nice and simple, but I also like that she uses knit edging for the ribbing. And I've definitely been thinking lately about dabbling and learning some knitting soon, so I thought this pattern could be a nice introduction into that. But you could also create some really simple crochet style ribbing by doing a single crochet ribbing in the back loop only. And I'll put some tutorials in the description box below if you want to check out how to do that. This next one has a vintage vibe. It's a slight twist on the granny square sweater vest with that 70s crochet granny square vest by Hey Hey Crochet. And this one's nice and customizable, and she also has sizing on how to make the extra small to 5XL, so that's definitely convenient. This next one is an amazing summer project, or perfect if you plan on going on a tropical destination for a little holiday. The G squared shorts pattern by 365 Crochet is definitely a good place to start. They make it by making all the granny squares and then adjusting that last row to add the crotch, and then all the squares are simply sewn together, and then you add a drawstring. And they have detailed instructions on how to make extra small to extra large on this one. This next one is another great granny square top. This particular pattern is by Han John Crochet, and this one uses that granny square motif to create a front and back panel and then sewn together to work the sleeves. And this pattern includes sizing from extra small to 3XL. You could also make some really simple crochet granny square pants, and here's a simple pattern by B Bing. The pattern includes steps on making shorts as well as pants because they're basically the same. It's just that, of course, for making pants, you just use some more granny squares and keep sewing them to make them as long as you like. And lastly, you can make the dragonfly patchwork pants by me. And this pattern was made using that dragonfly square motif. And also I include some tips on how to decrease it at the top of the pants to shape it to your waist, and then creating a crochet waistband. And I'm actually wearing them now, along with a top that I made to go along with it. So if you want to check out that video tutorial, you can see it in the card above. And next, I'll share some granny square crochet accessories. First, you could make a simple granny square headband. This is a simple sunburst headband by Brittany Alice Crochet, and she creates this by making a more rectangular shaped granny square and then connecting them together, and then you just create a little back strap and make it as long as you like so that you can tie it along the back. And I really like her style with this one. It's nice and simple, but also a cool vintage kind of style. Or you could make a granny square beanie, and I'll include two different variations you could make. First is this granny stripes hat pattern, like this one by Edie Ekman, and this one's perfect to make with any yarn scraps that you might have lying around. And you could definitely get fancy with the coloring on this one. You can use different colors for each row and kind of mix it up and use all of those scraps. Or you could make a more traditional granny square beanie hat like this one by Beautiful Crochet Stuff, and this one was made by making that top part of the hat in the round. Or you could use more of an alternative approach, like working it in the spiral-like design and then connecting it together to the granny squares. And when you're making a hat like this, when you connect all those granny squares together, you just want to make sure that it fits around your head, kind of like a headband, and then it's nice and snug and you can connect it to the top part of that hat. And I really love the way that she added a pom-pom here. It gives it that nice finished charm. And a matching scarf is also included in this pattern, so I definitely check it out if you're looking for a nice hat scarf combo. This next one is perfect for cold season. It's fingerless crochet mittens, and this one's a nice pattern by A. Wilson, and she has some nice details on how to make the top part and the thumb detailing, as well as that nice kind of ribbing like effect along the wrist. You could also make a little granny square purse, and I really like this simple one by Heather Corinne Crochets. I really love this puffy stitch granny square that she uses here for this pattern, and this one is a nice one for yarn scraps as well. And if you want to really elevate this pattern, you could also use some scrap fabric that you have lying around and sew it to the inside of that purse, and that would really make it a great upcycled piece as well. I also really loved this nice shoulder tote by Stella McCartney and was thinking of trying to make something like this in a tutorial soon, so let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see that. This next one is a great classic granny square project. It's a granny square tote by Hopelessly Devoted, and I really love that diamond motif here. It's really simply sewed all together, creating one panel and then sewn together along the sides. Then you just create the straps to bring it all together, and I really liked their tutorial here. It was really nice and detailed on the construction, so it's really helpful to follow. Or you could be really cozy with this next one and make some granny square slippers. I really love this pattern by Fran Morgan, and it uses 6 granny squares for each slipper, so it's easy and quick to whip up. And you could wear these around the house, or you could even put some vintage leather, some faux leather on the sole, and that would give the shoes some nice support. A bandana would also be a nice project to make, and I really like this pattern by Marching North. It's created using 3 full granny squares and 3 granny triangles. Then you just finish it off by creating a border along the top and side edges and then making those nice straps. You could also make a granny square bucket hat, and this pattern is by Paula Japrou and uses 5 granny squares. And this one's created by just creating 4 different granny squares to go along the sides and then a 5th one to go along the top, and then when you connect it all together, you just finish it off by creating that nice brim. Or you could make a granny square scarf like this one by Annie Design Crochet. This one uses 14 different granny squares, and they're all connected side by side. And then a few rows of that granny motif are worked along the edging. And I also really love the fringe that she added along the ends of this scarf, giving it that nice texture. If you celebrate Christmas, this next one is really festive. It's a granny square stocking, and this pattern is by Nastasia. And for this one, she shows how to assemble all of the granny squares together very cleverly, and then how to make that cuff at the top. I think it could be really cool to work with some faux feather yarn to create that top cuff of this pattern. It'll give it some nice texture and just a little pop. I really love this next one, especially with autumn and winter around the corner. It's the Granny Square Crochet Boot Cuffs. And I really love these ones by Lullaby Lodge. And I love the specific detailing and instructions on their pattern. And they have some nice details on how to adjust the sizing to fit your specific calf size and boot size. If you're traveling at all soon, I think you'll really appreciate these next ones. This first one is a crossbody bag, and this particular one is by MJ's Off the Hook. And I love this one because you can just throw your passport, your documents in it when you're at the airport. And I would just add a little zipper along the top part of the bag to really give it that finished look. And this maker also has a tutorial on how to do that too. And then also you just create those 4 granny squares and then just finish it off by making a Tunisian stitch to create that strap. You could also make a water bottle holder. This one is by Ravella Design, and she used a cute daisy granny square pattern for this design. And these are really helpful to have on hand if you're traveling a lot, especially in airports. After going through security, of course, a lot of airports actually have some filtered water bottle stations that you could actually fill up your water bottle at. Or you could go to a food court or food station and just ask them to fill up your water bottle for you, and also save some money instead of buying those water bottles. And then lastly for this section is a really nice laptop cover by Crafted by Cat. And this one is simply one big granny square that she just then folds up into an envelope shape and then sews it together and sews that little button on. This also doubles as a book cover and is really nice when you're traveling to keep your books and your laptop nice and protected. Now I'll share some home decor projects that you can make with granny squares. This first project is a blanket, and this is a simple and basic granny square blanket by Sarah Maker. If you have a bunch of granny squares piling up, this can be the perfect project to make because all you have to do is just sew them all together and make a border and you have a blanket. And of course, you can make it as big or as small as you like for your space. Next is a granny square lampshade. This one's by Lori Holt, and this is a nice way to add a pop of color or a whimsical charm to a reading nook or a bedside table. And this one is made by creating a simple rectangle panel, sewing them all together, and then just gluing it or sewing it to a lampshade. And gluing it can be really helpful if you don't particularly like sewing, and Lori's tutorial has a lot of really helpful steps as well. You could also make a stool cover, and this one is by My Rose Valley, and I really love this project because it's so simple and can be the perfect way to just dress up a basic stool. It could also serve as inspiration for when you go thrifting or antiquing and you can look for a nice stool that you want to add a bit of a crochet charm to. Or you can make a simple pillow cover. This one's by Erica Ardent, and I really like her tutorial because she gives a lot of great tips and techniques, such as how to make those edges nice and sharp, and also how to add a zipper and some lining. And this really gives it that nice finished, polished look. This next one I really love, and it's a bit of a spin on that granny square motif. It's the lace granny square tablecloth by Gianni Art. And if you've been here for a while, you know that I definitely like lacy motifs. And this one's really simple to make. You just create that lace square, and you can make as many as you like, and then sew them all together to create the length or width that you desire for your table. You could also make a dish towel. This is a nice one by Joy of Motion Crochet that uses 4 granny squares, and then you just crochet around them to connect them, and then crochet the rest of the towel. And this is a really classic yet simple design to make. This next one will give your table a nice cozy touch. It's some granny coasters, and these ones are by Smiling Colors, and this design uses that nice simple granny motif, but just in the shape of a circle. I like this next one to decorate your walls with. You could make a granny square wall tapestry. This one is the Marguerite Square tapestry by Loophole Fox. And the Marguerite Square is a nice lacy design that celebrates the puff stitch. And you could get really creative with the colors that you use in this one, as well as the length that you want to create for your walls. This next one is so creative. It's the Granny Angel by Sorella. This one's perfect with the winter holidays and Christmas coming up. And it's made with 2 granny squares that are just sewn together in the most clever way. And you just create that head in the top halo. You could also stuff that little head with any yarn scraps that you have lying around and just give them a new life and utilize them as stuffing. And this one was one of a few Christmas crochet patterns that I thought were cool to make. So if you'd like a specific Christmas crochet pattern list from me, make sure to let me know in the comments below because I'd love to make one for you all. You could make a cozy hanging for your plants with the granny square plant hanging like this design by Becca Parker. And this one uses granny squares for that middle section to hold the plants, and then some detailing on how to make the straps and the base. And the great thing about this one is you could customize it to make it bigger or smaller to fit your plants. Here's another granny square blanket you could make. It's the Floral Beauty Throw by Yarnspirations, and this one's a nice alternative to the classic granny square motif. And this one's made using about 30 floral squares that are then sewn together to make that beautiful blanket. You could also make a cup cozy with this Granny Square Cozy by Melanie Ham. This one could be really nice to put around a mug so you can hold it with your hands, or you could use it for your coffee cups. So it makes a nice alternative to those cardboard sleeves, but it also just looks really cute. You could create some storage for your space with the Granny Square Basket. This one's by Joy of Motion Crochet and is made by creating the bottom and the sides of the basket and then using that whip stitch seam to connect all the squares together. And then they just sewed it to the base. So the construction on this one is nice and clever. Or you could cozy up your space with a rug. I really liked this cabin rug design by Hickory and Highland Designs. I'm a big fan of bold colors on the clothes that I wear, but in my house, I'm a fan of more zen, earthy tones. So I really liked the color palette in this design. It feels really woodland inspired, and it's made by using 24 granny squares to make this rug that's about 23 by 33 inches or 59 by 84 centimeters. So it's a bit more of a runner type of rug, but you could also customize it to be the size that you'd like for your space. Here's another simple piece of wall art that you can make. This one's by Anusha Knitting and Crochet, and I loved how simple yet creative this one was. And this one really serves as great inspiration if you're going thrifting or antiquing and you just find a nice beautiful frame. Then you could just frame those nice granny squares in your home and give it that nice cozy yet polished touch. Another project you could make is the Granny Square Ottoman, like this one by Joy of Motion Crochet. And this one's made by connecting several squares together for that middle section and then crocheting the top in the bottom. And I loved how the creator got really creative with what to fill this ottoman with. I believe they used a duvet and some unused blankets, so you could get really creative with what you use to fill this ottoman with by upcycling some old textiles that you might have lying around that you're not using anymore. You could also make a pot holder like this design called the California Dreaming Pot Holder by Pixie Creates, and she has a very detailed tutorial on how to create this design. I personally love to create a bunch of these pot holders and then style them along the wall on my kitchen, sort of like this one by Beads and Basics. And they have a lot of really cool granny square designs as well. I'll link them on the blog, and their blog post is actually in Dutch, but of course you could translate it to English or whatever language you prefer. This next one is another holiday themed one. It's the Festive Garland by Fiberflux Blog, and this one's nice to put on a mantle or on the wall beside a Christmas tree to give it that nice festive charm. You could also make a granny square tapestry like this one by Crochet Swirl, which she uses that classic granny square but then sews them together to make a diamond shaped motif. And I thought that this one just adds that nice whimsical charm to your space. Or lastly, you could make a granny square curtain like this really beautiful flower one by Ning Crochet, and she has tips on how to connect the squares together and customize the size to fit your window. And I feel that this project just gives your window and your space an overall nice whimsical yet cozy charm. And that's it for my list of 50 projects that you can make with granny squares. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe and click the bell to be notified of all the future videos that I'll be sharing on this channel. Also, leave a comment below for me and let me know which one of these projects you love the most, or what kind of project that you like to make with your granny squares. I definitely love to know and read all of your comments and get really inspired by the things that you're working on. All right, well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.